live and on tape from the Dorman Training Studio, sometimes called my Carm Cave. Thanks, Dorman. Automotive technologies of today and tomorrow demand that professional technicians continuously maintain and grow their knowledge and skill sets. If one does not update, they will evaporate. Mastering the changing technologies, adapting new and more efficient testing techniques, and exploring new tooling and equipment applications are just a few challenges. Dorman Training is dedicated to providing the latest information and proven service and repair tips brought to you by some of the nation's best instructors in the company of some of the nation's best technicians. Dorman has been a leader in driving new product solutions for the automotive aftermarket for more than a century. With DormanTrainingCenter.com, we also deliver the technical training and insight service professionals need to further their careers and stay current. The automotive industry constantly evolves with technical advancements, making it crucial for technicians to stay updated with the latest trends and techniques. By undergoing comprehensive training, aspiring technicians will equip themselves with the necessary skills and knowledge to excel in their field. In addition to personal technical training throughout the United States, Dorman Training Center delivers online training modules covering a wide variety of topics, with new resources rolling out regularly. Whatever your role or experience, you can find helpful information on DormanTrainingCenter.com. Dorman Technical Training covers many of today's advanced automotive systems, including hybrid EV, driver assistance, diagnostics, emission, and complex electronics. Created for working service professionals and taught by ASE-certified instructors, classes are held as lunch and learns in the evenings and weekends at on-site locations, as well as available on demand. Bring your knowledge to the next level at DormanTrainingLive.com. Hey, welcome back. We've got a great story for you from Brett. We love stories. We just love stories, and we learn from them, and we sometimes compare our life, our world to them. We have a perfect example here with Brett on the rule of holes. And the rule of holes is you got to know when to stop digging, right?
Oh, I don't know, man. I've dug plenty of holes, and sometimes the light keeps getting a little shallower at the end,
Yeah, I hear you, man. And this is a rags to riches type story, going from zero to hero. Brett has his own podcast on craft brews back in his town. We're going to talk about that a little later. But you got a great business. Parents started it, mom and dad, and you and your brother were in it. And then I think your brother is no longer. You bought him out after the parents died. But you were struggling to say, hey, mom, dad, how come we can't buy this piece of equipment? And there were a bunch of things as a son you didn't quite know about the business.
There was a lot to know. I've been involved with the business since 1987. So I've been around for quite some time. And as the years progressed, and they wanted me to take more responsibilities and stuff. And then, unfortunately, my mom was diagnosed with cancer in December of 2013. And we all know what the ultimate end for that was. So a bunch of us, my brother and myself, kept saying, Mom, we need to know what's going on with the business. We're going to need to know all the back end stuff, because she didn't let everybody know, even including my father. My dad would come up with an idea and a plan, and she'd make it work, and none of us knew how. 2014, that Christmas, was pretty much the last day she was at work. She did pass away in February of 15. And that's when the books were laid in front of me. When I saw what the books were, there was absolutely no money left in the business at all, which was shocking to all of us. But we figured it out. I went through a lot, like your insurances and stuff were all coming due that year. And I said, look, I'm not paying anything until I have a face-to-face and I understand. And so we dug deep week to week. You still have to do your payroll. You still had certain bills. And it's like, okay, so this bill's getting paid this week. That one's going to have to wait. And I let all our vendors and everybody know the situation. Good news is, at the end of that year, we had a little bit of a net profit, and I didn't know a thing. So,
Brett, I have a question about where the money went. Was it that you just weren't profitable enough? You really didn't get or understand how to make margin?
I'm not sure the whole detail, Carm. I think things were good. And then when, I think it was 2008 was a big crash that we had back then. Business took a little bit of a hit, and I don't know it. They went to training like I do. Now, what did they get out of it? I can't answer that because I wasn't privy to that information in the back end of the business. We don't really know where the money went. It was kind of it was heartbreaking, 40 plus years in business, and we had zero money in the bank. So it was a real heartbreaking situation for all of us. And we were at wit's end, is like, do we close the shop? What do we do? How do we dig ourselves out of it? I didn't personally do it. I guess I personally did do it, but I figured it out to at least get us to the end of that year. And then
You could have quit though, Brett. You could have quit. You could have just said, hey, I'm done with this thing. There's no way we're going to bail ourselves out, climb out. But what was your resolve to hang in there and turn it around?
The resolve is it's a family business, and this is what all we knew. It was our livelihood, and not just ours. It was our staff's livelihood as well. So they depended on us to provide for them. And it really took, it's like, I'm going to figure this out. We're going to make this work, and I'm going to figure it out. So, like I said, by the end of that year, I had $1,000 net profit. We were in the black.
But you paid everything off. You found yourself breathing air, right?
Yep. We were to the point we owed nobody else. Everything was paid off by the end of the year. So one way or the other, we made it work. And then that's when I decided to look at getting some outside help. My brother and I argued about it because he looks at things different than I did. I look at the future as an investment, not as an expense. I researched, and, I've been to these training classes with like Rick White and all that. A couple of them were hitting me hard, like, hey, we can help. So I reached out, and with some arm twisting, I joined 180 Biz. That was my first business coach. It was phenomenal. My eyes were open. It's like, okay, here's what I need to know, like your key profit indicators. Here's how you figure this out. Here's how to do this. It took me a while to understand everything and implement it. But once, with the help of the coaching, we got to a profitable positive cash flow business by the end of the second year.
Good for you. Now, how long ago was that?
6-7 years ago.
Okay, 6 or 7 years. I mean, we hear a lot about what it takes for a company, an individual, to join a coaching company, depending on how struggling they are and how long it takes. I hear 3 to 5 years. So it's probably the right number. And I want to congratulate you for making that step. There are so many shop owners that are in the same position you are. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but they just loved doing what they're doing. Either it's a family hand down, or they've been at it for 10, 15 years. And deep down inside, they know that there's so much more to do, to get, profit to make, et cetera, et cetera. You said to yourself, I'm going to make a go of this thing. This is a family legacy stuff. And I've got to go out and learn about the things that I don't know.
You have to do what you got to do. It's funny. I had a customer ask me a long time ago, hey, you're living the dream. I'm like, well, I'm living a dream.
Wait a minute. Oh, stop there. Stop there. Isn't that the truth? You're living the dream. The outside perception of you is so different than reality.
Yeah. My initial dream was to join military full time. I wanted to be a combat chopper pilot. That was my dream. I wanted to fly the Apache. I was going to become a technician. It was called Penn College in Williamsport. Then I was going to go out to Michigan to become a mechanical technician to finish up a 4-year degree. Parents went with a different venture and knew I didn't have the mechanical skills that my brother did. He got it more than I did. I could still do it, but I really don't know all the ins and outs of being a mechanic. But so they wanted me more in the office, because that's back in the 80s, we first started getting new computers. They knew I had more skill level at the office level. So that's where I dropped college in a heartbeat and went enlisted in the Army on my 18th birthday. I sat there and I asked the recruiter, look, what do I need to do to fly choppers? And they, it was on my 18th birthday. I did it I surprised my parents when I got home that night. They say, I just enlisted in the Army. But sitting there talking to the recruiter, ask him about, my dream and a goal. He said, well, you're talking at least 5 years. Well, 17, 18-year-old, 5 years is an eternity.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what else do you got? So I wound up joining the Army Reserves for 8 years and still did the family business. But that was, so I was like, when somebody says you're living the dream, yeah, it's a dream, but it wasn't my dream. But this is all I know. This is my business. This has been my family livelihood. It's a legacy that I wanted to carry on for my parents. I was hoping my children or my brother's kid would want to be part of it and make it a third generation business. At this point, I'd say it's going to stop at second generation, but things can change. It may become a third generation. I don't know.
That's okay. You'll have a way to succeed the business either through sale or an internal candidate. I find it interesting that you weren't a mechanic, but you were involved in the business to the point where you were on the counter, you were in the office.
Yep. I was on the counter in the office. We did get our first computers in 1986, 87. I figured out how to use the computer.
Yeah, but
And
think about cash management, Brett. The cash is coming in, it's going to the bank, but you never had a chance to see the bank records. You never had a chance to see a profit or a loss statement if you were even having them done.
we have no clue. None of those records. My mom kept things manually.
Yeah.
So until it took forever to figure out all her back end paperwork because it wasn't recorded properly in QuickBooks when we started using QuickBooks. And a lot of things have changed.
And this is just 8 years ago, okay? And so people say, "Wow, that doesn't happen today." No, I bet you it's going on today, still in small, tightly run family businesses. And I think that's why the story here is so powerful. That if you're a family member in a business and you don't quite really know what's going on and you're getting to that ripe old seasoned age, I don't know what that is, 30, 40, 50, doesn't matter. This is your career. You want this so badly. You want this business to succeed to you, yet you don't know enough about it to even make that commitment. That's
Yeah.
why Brett is telling this story for that particular reason.
I have no business background. I didn't go to college. I got my education through the Uncle Sam, through the military. So I have no college. I have no business background, no mechanical background. But yet I figured a way to make it work with outside help to help me learn how to actually run not just an automotive business, but a business, period. And it takes a lot of effort to do that. I will never not have a business coach. I highly encourage anybody that is in this situation. If you're lost and you can't figure it out or don't have an idea what to do, get help.
Yeah.
Get somebody from the outside to help you take that next step.
That's why we have all of our business coaches on so often to get their wisdom passed on. It's almost like listen to the show and get yourself some free coaching advice. I don't want to speak ill of your mom at all, but do you think she was embarrassed that she didn't want to show you anything?
I think we had talked about digging a hole. I think it got to a point where she had dug a hole. And yes, I believe she was totally embarrassed with the situation, that not only with the business side that she got into, but her personal finances as well. They were just as a mess, and dad had no clue about them as well.
Yeah.
So all this was hidden. It can create a lot of problems within a relationship of any type, whether it's a marital or family relationship. I don't hide anything. Be honest. Get the help you need to get out of where you're at. I mean, there's never a hole deep enough that you can't figure out how to crawl out.
Well said. I'm going to go back to the embarrassed thing. There was a point that I learned and I realized a long time ago that the secret sauce, everybody says, sorry, no, I'm not going to join that networking group. Nope, I'm not going to get on that Zoom call. Nope, I'm not going to join. I don't want to share my secret sauce with anyone. I'm not going to have coffee with the guy down the street because I don't want to share my secret sauce with anyone. Secret sauce is embarrassment. That's what I come to find out. It is, because the people that are so successful, they share all the time because there are no secrets. It's your personality, it's your hard work, it's your commitment to culture that sets you apart, that gives you differentiation. However, secret sauce, no, it is embarrassment to really undress in front of the group.
And along with that, Karma, it's a matter of being truthful to yourself. And then, okay, hey, most of us have probably done stuff we shouldn't have never done. We've gotten into situations we shouldn't have never been there. It's how you pick yourself up and be truthful with yourself and say, look, I made a mistake. I'm going to correct that mistake and not make it a second time, and put the effort in to work yourself out of that situation. I mean, that's how we all learn. If you don't fail, you don't learn.
I got to tell you, Brett, take me back to the day that you started to realize all this you had this huge hole. I mean, who helped you through it?
I reached out to my accountant. We reached out to the family attorney that helped my parents with the business. I did a lot of soul searching. My brother and I talked. Is like, okay, we're actually running this business now because Dad was, taking care of Mom her last couple months. Basically, pretty much retired. He was done, which they should have been retired a while ago. But Mom refused, and we find out why she refused to even retire because of the situation that she had left us in. A lot of help. I reached out to my peers, my fellow shop owners in the area to say, hey, what can I do? And then, someone were saying, go for the coaching. And, I've been to the trainings. I believe heavily in training. I will invest a lot of money throughout the year for my staff and myself to attend training or training events, whatever. It's a tough industry. And if you don't constantly stay on top of it, you could fall behind pretty quick. But a lot of people helped me through it. Couple of key vendors that we deal with, Napa being one of them, my local Napa guy, and the coach, Rick White, helped me a ton.
Rick, great guy. Hey, I saw you at ASTE. That's when we first met. What do they come up to you during and then after the conference? Because I love to encourage our industry to do more of this.
My parents always went to training events or, like a day training if somebody like Finn Waterhouse would come in and stuff like that. But I don't think they ever invested for the whole team to go as a unit. The techs would go to tech trainings and they're usually in the evenings or a full day Saturday. I made the investment 2 years ago. It's like once the business was financially positive with cash flow, which was a huge feeling. It's like, look, I can afford to take my staff and pay for the entire trip. It was a huge feeling that made me happy that I could do this. So when I got to that point, I made the choice to talk to my staff and say, look, I want to start doing some of these major training events and I want to take the whole team. 2 years ago, we went down to ASTE for the first time and they loved it. They all got stuff out of the training. Don't get me wrong. It was more the fact of it was a team building effort. We came back with a much happier environment. We got to know each other a lot better outside of the work environment. And just for instance, I took a seminar that year on getting to know the Gen Z and the millennials.
I'll bet you that was with Sara Fraser.
Yes, it was. And there should have been a packed room of shop owners in that, but there was three shop owners and then a young millennial sitting there with, I guess it was her boyfriend or husband. I don't know. I got a ton out of that class to understand them. And I have my young tech is one of this generation. And when we were sitting around at the Airbnb that night, I was telling him about, first off, some of the acronyms that they use.
I know.
Yeah. And then I said, look, you guys, I got to understand them a little bit more because they think different. It's not that they're lazy. They work differently than me as an old school guy, And I said, look, I think I'm going to turn some of the social media stuff. He said, dude, I've been wanting to talk to you about that. That's team building right there. You're getting them involved in your everyday business. Not only will they prosper, but you will prosper and the whole overall environment prospers. And then your customers ultimately pay the price of a positive outlook.
A great outlook. I echo the how upset you are and that I am that Sara didn't have a lot of people in that class. And understanding Gen Z is really more important than I think a lot of us realize. I did an episode with Sara and a young man named Owen Chambers, a very young 20-something technician with a 4-year business degree from local college. I was so impressed with the things that he said about his world and his life, what he does for social, and how much he'd like to make. I mean, it's a great episode. It was Town Hall Academy 347, Town Hall 347. Just go to the website, type in Gen Z, Gen space Z. And you were talking about the acronyms. They were testing me at the end. Sara was asking me, Carm, do you know what this means? Like the fear, FOMO and stuff like that. But the Gen Z's acronyms and slang. And I was clueless because here I'm a boomer.
Carm, I was taking pictures of every screen she was putting up there because I was like, I'm not going to remember all this stuff. But even my generation, I'm in my mid 50s, so we had our own slang, and our parents looked at us cross-eyed, like, "What are you talking about?"
And we have to pay attention to this. We have to know if our businesses are going to last. succeed, grow, build themselves to be behemoth successful companies, Gen Z, millennials and Gen Z got to be on staff. They have to.
They
We got to
have
bring
to.
them on.
That's why I was shocked that not a lot of owners, that class wasn't packed, because if you're talking about bringing in the next generation of these younger technicians or business owners, you can't just operate your business without trying to change and appease them, because you'll never get them in your door.
Here's what it reminds me of. Thank you for bringing this up, by the way. Don't mean to soapbox you on this, but we'll go to a class on cash flow management. We'll go to a class on technician productivity, effective labor rate. Technicians will go back to a basic electric and learn stuff from it and say, finally I got it. It finally sunk in. This is great. Ooh, there's a left turn, there's a right turn. And you continue to immerse yourself in all that learning. The generational thing is just as critical and just as important. Why? Because it evolves more than a financial statement would. That's pretty much locked. How you get a financial statement there requires a lot of heavy lifting. I get that. But the generation, it's evolving, and we have to pay attention to it. And I encourage anyone to catch one of those seminars. And in fact, all the stuff we've ever done on generations on the show. And that's why I continue to do them, because it's a moving target.
You hear the shop owners in all these classes, well, I can't get techs. Yes, we probably realize there is a tech shortage, because let's face it, the automotive industry is not an easy industry to enter. It takes a skill level, it takes an investment in time, and it's manual labor, but it is a rewarding industry. And the only way you're going to do that is you got to encourage this next generation that this is an industry that you need to be in. And if you don't want to change and adapt to attract the younger people, you're going to be lost. Shows like you, and you're trying to get the word out. We need to change. This industry needs to change on a good fact. Unfortunately, some of the older people, they don't want to change. They just want to keep doing day by day. And, I made that decision a long time ago. I could have just, like you said, we started this show. I could have left the business just die.
Well, we keep impressing upon so many people in the industry about advancing the aftermarket. And there's a lot of people that constantly come on and listen and subscribe to the show. We're on everybody's favorite podcast player. Just subscribe to the show. We've got our own Carm Capriato YouTube channel. All of our shows are on YouTube, so you can watch what goes on here with us in the studio. You're going to hit some sales milestones this year. What did you do to get the sales numbers to drive?
Well, first off, that takes a lot of car count. What you have to do is we've been doing DVIs for 7-8 years, almost since the inception of the idea with Auto Vitals. If you're not doing DVIs and you're just doing what the car came in for and shipping it back out the door, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So doing a proper DVI, letting your service writer, whoever's doing your service, estimate everything on there, educating the consumer as to why you're recommending it, not only why it was in there, the proper way to do it. You do their initial concern first, anything you saw that you really should address because the customer wasn't aware of it, and then the recommended services. Educating the customer is what's going to make the sale. And I know the economic times, especially now, we're coming into the end towards the holidays. So people are not spending like they used to, but that helps drive sales. We are not in the car repair business. It's been said many times. We are in the people business. And until you get to that point to understand you are in the people business, you just fix cars, that's where the sales come from. And that's what drives revenue. And to answer your question, there's a goal that I got, it's at 1 million sales, which we've never been anywhere close. If I'd have a good quarter, which right now it's not trending that way to the end of the year, I would be very close to hitting that goal.
Good for you.
So I'm about 20% higher than last year's revenue.
Good milestone. Well, at least you know in your mind exactly what your goals are. That's great. Now let's go and switch gears. Talk about this Craft Brew Local podcast. How the heck you must love beer, number one.
I do. I'm a beer guy. And the podcast idea came from actually up at Tools in the Poconos a couple years ago. That's my association's training event, the Alliance of Automotive Service Providers.
Yeah.
So I sat in with Lucas and David, and they asked me to sit in while they were recording that year, and I never did one before.
And you got the bug, huh? And then you decided to go home and
I walked
and
away
sit down with
there.
some friends.
Yeah, I was like, damn, this was fun. At that time, my neighbors and I, we were already doing a craft beer night once a month. We'd get together and we'd all bring stuff to the table. And I even made up scorecards and stuff just to score the beers and record it. And when I came away from doing that podcast with those guys, I was like, we can make this a podcast. So we kind of took 2 months to figure it out because I was a disc jockey back in the day. I did 15 years of DJing. So I had some audio background. My neighbor played in a band, so he had some audio background, but none of us did video and figured out. But we figured it out. We're going 2 years in now, and it's called the Central PA Pour. And the idea was to let us get comfortable doing it on our own, and then we start bringing guests in and featuring local brewers or whatever, and let them talk about their product and their business. So we're up to 60 episodes, I think, close. 2 releases a month as we speak. I just recorded with 2 brewers back to back, and they wanted to brew my own recipe because I have a vanilla bourbon stout that I just kegged.
Wait a minute, the Bret brew?
I do. Yeah, we brew too.
What are you going to call it? You're going to call it the Bret brew?
At this point, I think I'm going to be calling it Jiminy Bean. It's a vanilla bourbon American stout.
Jiminy Bean.
Because I use Jim Beam as the bourbon back end.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to take a little play off the word Jim and use Jiminy like Jiminy Christmas.
Sure.
And then the bean for the vanilla side of it.
It is so clever. I love that. And I like my bourbon too. That's got to be a, ooh.
I just had some the other day because it's now been in the keg about a week. So it's nice and creamy. It's got a good coffee note in the back end of it. The vanilla hits your nose, and then just a hint of the Jim Beam.
Man, this is how I talk about Cabernet. It's just all those kind of flavors and aromas. Oh my, and that's so cool. Anyway, how would people want to get a chance to see it? How can they watch the podcast?
Look us up wherever you get your audio platforms at Central PA Pour. We're on YouTube at Central PA Pour, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
At Central PA Pour, that would be POUR, right?
Correct. Yep. Even though it does make us poor.
Bret, thank you for coming on and sharing this very private, transparent discussion about the challenges that went on at your family business and how you recovered from that. I think so many people will appreciate this story. Any final words?
No, I appreciate you having me on, Carm. Hopefully somebody does get something out of it, and there's never an end. So dig deep, put the work in, and you can survive it and come out on the other end. Very positive.
Thank you, man. It's very good information. I appreciate it. Bret Fadley from Fadley's Auto Masters and Tires in York, PA. Come back on. Tell us how your own brew tasted someday, okay?
Oh, we can do that. And I can ship it because I'm not a seller. But I love drinking.
I'll meet you halfway, Binghamton.
There we go. I can do that.
We'll do some swapping. Thank you, man.
All right. Thanks, Carm.